I want to thank everybody for coming today. So just to start, let me ask you guys ask you about your background. Who here is currently operating a business? Okay. Who here wants to start a business? Okay, great. Well, I'm hoping that this helps you. I have started 29 businesses, and I have learned a lot about how to fail at business. And so I'm hoping to be able to share that with you so that you can not repeat my mistakes. So what are your businesses right here? You guys said that you run a business. What do you do?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. I make apps for people.
Ads? Okay,
No,
perfect.
apps.
Oh, apps.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
cool.
So like I made a whole back-end thing for a friend of mine teaches chess.
Chess?
He
Oh,
needed a platform that was like, it's kind of like when, like you could use this app and this app and this app and this app over here, or we can just combine all those features into one app, just for you.
very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
And what do you do over here?
Support services.
You say support services?
Yeah.
Like tech support?
Entrepreneurs and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Maintain
Awesome. How long have you been doing that?
18 months.
Oh, congrats. You passed the threshold.
Kinda.
That's great. And was there somebody over here that was, okay, no? Anybody else running a business right now? Oh, okay, yeah. What do you do?
I'm a marketing agency.
Oh, very cool. We're friends, kindred spirits. So these are some of the businesses that I have started. They are all over the place in different industries, and it's been kind of a progression. I got my start in business in 2008. I was going to be the best real estate investor in all of history. 2008 was a wonderful time to get into real estate, if you remember. I was quickly broke. I was a loser, sleeping on my sister's couch. Thank you, Amy. Really appreciate you helping me out there. But that was sort of my start into business. Most people get into business, you know, it just kind of happens. It's not like most people are sitting around and be like, you know what, I'm going to start a business someday and I'm going to make less money than I ever did before and have tons of way more stress than I could ever imagine. But each and every single one of these businesses taught me something. Right? I learned something from every single one of these businesses, as people should. For example, this one right here, Stop Driving Fear. This was a very interesting, this is my first foray into affiliate marketing. Has anybody here ever tried affiliate marketing before? Okay, so it's different than what they teach on YouTube, right? And so with this one, this was way back in the day with a guy named Mark Ling, who sort of popularized the idea of affiliate marketing. And this was the product that I was selling. It was a product about how to stop driving fear. And back in the day, you would buy a exact match domain. So for example, the keyword I wanted to rank for was stop driving fear. So I went and bought stopdrivingfear.com. I was stunned. I was like, I cannot believe that this domain is available. This is just like almost too good to be true, because I'm sure most people have gone on and tried to find a domain. Oh, it's taken. No, it's taken. No, it's gone. But this was an exact match keyword, and it was available, and I freaked out. I bought it immediately. I created a whole blog. This was obviously before AI. I think this was in 2012 or something like that. And so this was before AI, so I actually had to write all the stuff. And we were doing, you know, spinning syntax. You write an article, put it in there, and the software would just write it in a bazillion different ways so you could put it all over the place. I mean, it's truly crazy. But it never worked. I couldn't get any traffic to the site. And one day I was like, what in the world is going on? Why am I not getting any traffic? And so, gentlemen with the marketing agency, let me just see what you think here. So you go to Google and you type in your domain name. Nothing comes up in the search results. What does that mean? You're blacklisted, right? Google has got a problem with you. It's a brand new domain. What in the world what problem could I be having? And so I went and used Moz's keyword link explorer, and I found out that my domain had thousands of Russian porn sites pointed to my domain. Somebody had earned it, had purchased it before me, had burnt it to the ground, and I was the only one stupid enough to buy it again and try and build a business on it. That was a lesson that I learned. It's not really something that I ever would have imagined, but I always do a link analysis on a domain name whenever I buy a domain. Since then, Google's come out with some disavow list tools, which is really great. My first online, up there in the right, Ukulele King. That's how I convinced my wife to marry me. She wanted to learn how to play the ukulele. And so I learned how to play the ukulele so we could practice together because all the other boys wouldn't go away. And so fortunately, I got to spend some time and it worked out great. So of course, I started a business around it. Let's see. Up in the top left, the Utah Men's Entrepreneurs. I'm actually doing that right now. It's a community I'm putting together in St. George. We've got 600 people that have signed up. So that's really cool. This is a marketing agency I did. This is a PDF thing that I tried to sell on Etsy for a digital download. That was exciting. The Amazon, that was a Chrome extension that I had built that was extremely cool for Amazon sellers. Above it, Turtle Bay Jewelry. So this is a wonderful opportunity to learn that before you spend $1,200 hiring a trademark attorney, you should probably just do a quick search to see if somebody's already got the domain so you don't waste the money. So that was a lesson I learned there. Let's see. Packed Practice. That one was really, really interesting. It was something that I did for marriage therapists. I had an offer that I did for marriage therapists. I got the guy 900 leads in 4 months. And so, of course, I'm like, I've got to do this for other people. That didn't work for lots of different reasons. Clip earring shop right here. This was actually how I quit my job, if you can believe it. It was Amazon. My wife grew up in a farm home in the middle of Utah. She couldn't cut her hair or wear pants or anything like that. And so her parents wouldn't let her get her ears pierced. And so she is a very flamboyant person. So she figured out how to make clip-on earrings that actually looked pierced. So if you've ever worn clip-on earrings, you know that one of the biggest things that women don't want is they don't want people to know that they're wearing clip-on earrings. And so ours were really cool because she had these special clips that she did. And so I was trying to impress her in addition to the ukuleles. And so I get it on Amazon, sales start, going okay. And eventually it got big enough that I'm like, I am out of this job. I hate these people. So yes, I mean, lots of different businesses all over the place. I wish I could be like, my first business just killed it. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So the thing that's really interesting about starting businesses is you can look back and hopefully you're learning from the businesses. Hopefully you're not repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again like I did. So out of all those businesses that I started and failed at, I discovered that there were really 5 commonalities that pretty much all of them had. Now there were the little one-off things like the Russian porn site thing on the domain name that there's literally no way I could have anticipated that was going to be a problem. But there were 5 that were consistent across almost all of them. And so let me just show you what they are in advance, and then we'll talk about all of them. So first of all, overbuild, which I'm going to sort of clarify as saying making something that nobody wants, which is a problem. The next one is I didn't pre-sell the product. That sounds scary, like why would I do that? What's the big deal? It's a big deal, and I'll show you why. 3, avoid selling. Selling is scary. Has anybody ever been afraid to sell anything? Yeah, I mean, it can be intimidating. I mean, some people are just like, they don't seem to be bothered by it at all, but it can be kind of intimidating. And we come up with all kinds of stupid reasons to avoid learning how to sell, and we'll go over that here. Number 4, chasing shiny objects. Has anybody ever been distracted in their business before? Who has? Oh, good. Wow, you're great. Maybe you should be teaching up here. So distraction kills just about everything, and we'll go over that as well. And then 5 is quit too early. We're going to talk about something called the Valley of Despair, which hopefully you guys have heard about that. Okay, so this was my first solid effort at making something big. Has anybody ever listened to Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income podcast? Okay, you get it. So one time he had a guest on there named Dane Maxwell. Has anybody ever heard of Dane Maxwell or anything? Okay, so Dane was a really, really interesting guest. I probably listened to this episode at least a dozen times. And by the end of the first one, I had drunk the Kool-Aid completely about software. And so software is really interesting because back in the day, software was this magical thing that only, unicorns knew how to make, and nobody could find these people. But it was just amazing, right? And so what he said on this podcast is he's like, it's really not that hard to have a successful business. And it's like, what? How in the world is that possible? So he says, okay, here's the way you do this. You go and you find somebody with money. And then you ask them what their problems are. You go solve that problem for money, and then you sell it to a bunch of other people. Sounds easy, right? It sounds easy. And so that's the traditional process, is you go to somebody. His example was a realtor, right? And so he went to a realtor, and he was like, oh my gosh, you have such a successful business, right? Oh yeah, it's amazing. I'm so successful. But there's got to be some things about your business that aren't so fun. Oh my gosh, holy cow, this and this and this. And Dane's like, oh really, let's write those things down. And then at the end, he's like, okay, let's make another appointment. I'll come back. And so he goes home and he goes on to Fiverr, finds somebody to make software, and he says, okay, these are the problems that this guy has. How can we solve it? And so the guy on Fiverr is just like, oh, we could do this, 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 and this. So Dane is drawing something by hand that looks like a computer screen so that he actually has something to go back to the person and say, here's the solution. This is how you solve it. And so the idea is, if you find a person with money that has a painful problem and you can make them all go away, would they probably pay you? Probably. Does it have to be after the software is made? No. That's what's the most interesting part about the whole thing, is if you can pre-sell the product, there are several things that happen. One is that they will pay for it, right? And so you validated the market, their ability to pay, how painful is this problem, but also you then have the money to go and build the thing. That's probably the most important part. So for those of you who have started businesses, have you ever come out of pocket before you had the money? Right? Yeah, it's not fun. I mean, it leads to a lot of uncomfortable conversations with your spouse. It's just how it is. But Signly was my first attempt to actually do that software problem. So I was the marketing director at a large advertising law firm for a lot of years. I spent $30 million on ads. I generated $130 million in revenue. And one of the biggest things that we did was billboards. I love billboards. Anybody that says that traditional advertising is dead doesn't know what they're talking about. Billboards are incredible. They're so effective. They're also so expensive that most people can't use them. And so I made friends with all the billboard sales reps. And so we would go to lunch and we'd sit down and they'd be like, oh my gosh, these proposals, making a proposal is such a nightmare. I got to go and I got to, there's 600 PDFs in a folder and I got to go find out, which ones are facing south. Because if all your billboards are facing south, then anybody driving south isn't going to see them. So you got to have a mixture of one's facing south and one's facing north, and you don't want to have too many in one area. So you got to, put them over here, get some over here and some over there. And so you're sorting through these PDFs, and it's just absolutely crazy. And not only that, once you have the list, then you have to go and you take a pin. You have to take a screenshot of Google and take a pin and say, I think that billboard's about right here, right? And so they're in Photoshop. These are salespeople. These are not people that are good at Photoshop. And these things are just absolutely crazy. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be so easy to do. All I got to do is have a spreadsheet database, do a filter, what's facing south, click, 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 what has more than 100,000 people a day seeing it or whatever, and do that. and then it will automatically produce the PDF where it sticks it all together, makes a map, has a contract at the end, sends it off, and it's ready to go. In my mind, that sounded so easy. So what I did is I started thinking about, oh my gosh, I could do this, and I could do this, and I could do this, and I could have a sales video attached to each billboard so that when a rep sends a link to the thing, or first of all, they can send a link to a proposal, which they couldn't do before, so that's a cool new thing. I could have a video, I could have all these different things, drag and drop, and in my mind, I'm just like, this is the coolest thing that has ever been. These sales reps are just gonna go absolutely bananas for this product. And so I went through and I came up with all these different features, and I hired a developer in the Philippines to build this thing for me, right? I didn't have the money to hire an American to do it, so I hired someone in the Philippines for super cheap. He said it would take 5 weeks. A year later, it was still not working, and you can see this, this picture up here is supposed to represent just all the incredible things that I had come up with. It did all the things. It was so cool. The problem is, after a year, it didn't work. Anytime I clicked the generate PDF thing, something would break. Every time the developer fixed that, something else would break. It was so horrible, I was embarrassed to show it to any of my friends. And it had been a year, and they had just forgotten about the lunch that we had had where I asked them about all their problems. It was just horrible. And so one day I had a friend who was starting a development shop, and he charged people like 60 grand a month to do their software. And I'm like, oh my gosh, one day that would be so amazing. But he came to me and he's like, I just hired a new developer, and I don't want to train him on client projects, but he does need to have something. So if you'll give me $5,000, I will have him build your product in 2 weeks. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I've already had that conversation with my wife 12 months in a row of, this is the month, I just need another $2,000, it's not a big deal. And now we had just sort of put a pin in it and be like, okay, that was a great learning experience, we're moving on. And then he's like, for $5,000, let's roll the dice again. And so I was like, sure, yeah, let's do it. I had the conversation with the wife. She was supportive, which is absolutely shocking. She's so amazing. But what happened, this next part was the interesting thing about this whole experience for me. He brings me into the company. We sit down at a table. His senior developer comes in, and he says, okay, you've got this amazing product. Just tell me what it is the people asked for. And I was like, okay. They want to be able to add billboards to a PDF, click a button, and stick it and spit it out. And there he's like, okay, that's awesome. So tell me all the stuff that your current software does. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it does digital drive-bys, it has sales videos, it has drag and drop. You can generate a link to sell it to people. I just went on and on and on and on and on. There was about 20 different features that were just my customers were going to absolutely drool over when they saw that. And the guy was like, okay, that's awesome. This is a really cool product. It's probably going to change the industry. There was nobody else doing it. I was the industry. But yeah, so he goes through and he says, okay, now they said they want the ability to add things to a list, hit generate, digital drive-by, does it do that? And I'm like, well, no, but it's cool. They don't know that they need it. I'm Steve Jobs. I'm making the iPhone. People don't know what they need until they see it. And he's like, okay, let's put that on phase 2. If anybody's ever telling you, let's put it on phase 2, that means that they're being like, I want to respect you, but forget about it, right? And so we went through the 20 things, and he's like, okay, drag and drop, is that necessary? Well, no, but that's kind of the whole idea. Great, phase 2, he'd cross it out. The next thing was, some other feature, and we get to one, and he's like, is this necessary? And I was like, okay, yeah, that one, there's really no way to make this work without that feature. And so we get to the bottom of the 20 things, all of them but about 3 were crossed out. And my heart was just like, I just felt like I was getting stepped on, because this incredible product that in my mind I could see this thing, gosh, he was just ripping it to shreds. However, in 2 weeks for $5,000, the whole thing was working, and I had something to sell. Whereas before, I was like 30 grand into it, it had been a year. It was a Frankenstein. It was just horrible. And the thing that I learned from this is that just because something is cool doesn't mean that it should be made, right? Making something that people don't want. They had told me what they wanted, and I went far beyond that. So I guess a question is, has anybody here ever built something that somebody didn't want? No, I'm the only one? Well, don't do it then. Okay. Always validate the idea. Okay, let's see. It pays to have their problem go away. So here's what's so amazing too, is I talked earlier about Dane Maxwell, and he said that if you go and find a person with a painful problem, sell it to it before, then you go build it. So what I did is I talked to them, found a problem. I didn't pre-sell it. I went out and made it, and as you saw, it took me a year. Went on something it should have only taken, that other guy did it in 2 weeks. And so what happened is now I have this product. Now I have this extremely cool thing that I can sell. And so I go back to my friends in the billboard sales reps, and I was like, okay, you remember that conversation? Well, I have something to show you. And they look at it and they're like, this is amazing. This is going to save me so much time. I can literally take something that was taking me 2 hours and I can do it in 30 seconds. Amazing. Unfortunately, they weren't the ones that actually paid for the subscription. They weren't the ones that actually made the decision to pay Michael. And so they go back to their boss, and the boss says, I don't care how long it takes you to make a proposal. All I care about is you getting sales. And so I created a product. I solved a very painful problem, but it was not for the person that actually made the decision. That was another thing that I learned. And so that's something to definitely keep in mind. So the question is, when you're doing this work beforehand, when do you want to actually have somebody say no? Do you want it to be before you spend a year and $30,000 making something? Or do you want it to be after the year, all the money, every family party, people say, oh, how's that thing going? How's it going with that project? How much money are you making? You want to quit your job, how close are you? And it's like, well, we're pretty close, we're about to launch. After a while, you just don't want people to ask about it anymore. It's like the boxes of inventory in the garage, and you're just like, every time you go get in the car, you just feel like a loser. Another product that didn't work. And so the idea is never build anything unless you know that they are going to buy it. And the best way to know it is by selling it before you make it. So those are the first two. One is never build something that people don't want. And the way that you know is they actually got to pull out their card and pay for it before you make it. That sounds kind of scary because a lot of us get into the idea land. Entrepreneurs are very idea-oriented people. We can see something in our brains that doesn't exist yet, and we want to solve the problem. However, there are many problems that shouldn't be solved, surprisingly. So the next one is hiding from selling. So the most important part of any business is sales. That's why sales, when there's big layoffs, sales reps almost never get laid off in mass. It's almost always support staff, developers, people after the money comes into the building. You don't really hear about mass layoffs in a sales department. Marketing can get chopped, but often it's the creatives that get chopped. It's usually not the people that are making the money, right? And so entrepreneurship it's like a cross between having something to sell and the actual selling of it. And so I guess just a poll of the audience, if you had to choose between an amazing product to sell and your ability to actually convince somebody to buy it, obviously they're both important, but which one is probably more critical? I would argue sales. Yeah, did you have You think sales too? Yeah. If you can't get any money, it doesn't matter how cool the product is. It'll just be another logo in the graveyard. And so with selling, it is a skills-based thing, and I'm going to show you in a minute just how I've come to do that. However, I avoided learning how to sell for years. So I have my product. All my friends have said no. Every lunch break at work, I should have been on the phone calling billboard companies, trying to get people to buy the product. However, what I was doing is I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to sell. Why don't I go get a book on sales? Read the book. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I need to buy that person's course. So I get the course. I watch the course. You know, I listen to these podcasts by these salespeople, and by the end, I know so much about sales, it's crazy. I have not made one sales call. I would have learned more about sales and made more money by spending 1/10 of the time I was in the course on the phone than whatever happened. And so I personally used education to delay the thing that actually mattered because I was scared. And so if you're a developer or anything else and you ever find yourself adding features, you know, if the product only did this, or if it only did this, or, you know, I can't launch the corners on the buttons on the website aren't rounded enough, you know. Holy cow, I mean, my website's so dated. I need to get a new one. Never mind the fact that nobody's coming to the website and it doesn't matter. And so if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're doing something else, you're scared, and it's time to get over it and actually start making calls. So one of the things that I think is interesting is, who's heard of the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour rule? Okay, just shout it out. What is the rule?
Basically 10,000 hours of whatever you're trying to learn and understand, and you'll lock in, right?
Yeah, mastery comes at 10,000 hours, you know. The thing that I don't like about that is you don't need to be a master at something in order to be good enough to do a lot of different things. There's another guy named Josh Kaufman. Has anybody heard of his book, The First 20 Hours? Fabulous book. I think that one's far more helpful. He demonstrates through research and his own experiences that it usually takes about 20 hours to gain proficiency at something. Whether that's playing the guitar, some other skill that you're trying to develop, it's usually only about 20 hours in order to get good enough at that thing. However, like Alex Hormozy says, people put off that first hour for years before they actually get started. And so in reality, all you're trying to do is get 20 hours on the phone. All you're trying to do is get 20 hours sending out cold emails. All you're trying to do is get 20 hours of experience selling. And once you hit that, more than likely, you are going to be just fine. It's critical in this time to be very careful of the content you're consuming, because it can be extremely easy to get distracted. Okay, so this is the next blunder here, is distraction. Okay, so here was my experience. You can think about whether this applies to you. Is there are a million different ways to sell anything, and they all work. They all work if you'll stick with them long enough. So as an example, in Signly, what I was doing is I started running ads on Twitter, and then I started trying to, I was supposed to be cold calling people. I was supposed to be working my warm market. I was supposed to be going up to the top of the leadership, but I don't know about that. So let me start at the bottom and get the demand going upward for them asking for the product. But the problem is that it's impossible to be good. It's hard enough to be good at one thing. It's almost impossible to be good at a bunch of different things. And so if you are constantly dividing your attention, it is going to be nearly impossible for you to get good enough at anything to have traction. And so you can see right here all the different stuff that can come up that is just avoiding doing the one thing that you need to be doing, and that is just selling, obviously. And here's a really good example of one where I finally got it. This was a digital product that we made called Rage Reset. My brother actually created the content. It was a 90-second protocol for a man when they start feeling the little heat coming in their head, and they know they're about to freak out. It's a 90-second protocol for how they can recognize it, which is the most important part, recognize the trigger, do a few actions to sort of take a step back and do something on purpose instead of react. So it was extremely cool. And it's actually the most successful product that I had ever launched to that point. And so what I did is I sold it by Facebook ads. That was what I did to launch the product. And so there was one product, the PDF. It wasn't a product and a course and a consultation call sold through a challenge and all these different things. It was not complex. It was a PDF for $27 in or out. My avatar was angry men. That was who I made the product for. It wasn't, this is how you deal with anger. It was for Jason. Now, Jason was a professional man who has a lot on his plate. He has a lot of responsibility. He's in a meeting. Somebody says something disrespectful. In his brain, he is just, he is on the edge. He's about to freak out. And he's going to embarrass himself. Or Jason is going to come home, walk in the house, and as soon as his son sees him, he flinches. Or he's sitting at the table at night for family dinner, and nobody's really talking about anything. It's just kind of, how was your day? Really artificial stuff. And he sees that everywhere in his life that he's going, it's just kind of cold. There's not really a whole lot going on. And then one day he has a freak out. He has an explosion. People in the meeting all of a sudden are looking around, and he knows that he's made a mistake. And so he sort of vanishes into the bathroom. He's sitting on the toilet, scrolling on Facebook or Instagram, trying to distract himself, because in his brain he's on a razor's edge. And in his mind, he's saying, it's their fault, they keep disrespecting me. And on the other side, he's also saying, but this keeps happening to me. Maybe it's me, maybe I'm the problem. And so that moment is when he sees my ad that says, you just exploded, you don't know what to do, maybe it's me, click here to find out. The only way that I could have messaging that good is by focusing on one person, right? And that was why this page right here converted at 5%, which if you know anything about sales pages, that's like amazing. And the reason why is because it was 100%, this was on his brain 5 seconds ago, and now he's on my sales page reading all about him. And so I had one avatar, one person, and I did it only with Facebook ads. I think I got, I don't even know, maybe 40-something sales in just a couple of days. I ended up killing the whole thing because I had thought that, professional men would be like, oh, great, I can't wait to have this problem solved. I hadn't anticipated them being total jerks. And so, oh my gosh, yes, I know that that's a joke, but it was way worse. It was way worse than I was expecting. One of the best things that you can do to improve your business and your product, call your customers. Somebody buys, you call them and be like, hey, how's it going? I am so grateful that you just bought. Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? And then usually they're like, oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. Let me go on and on and on about all the stuff. What I got was, why are you calling me? I never consented to this. What are you doing? Get off the phone. Do you want me to, I want a refund. Do you want me to sue you? I'm like, holy cow. Do I really want this to be the rest of my life? Jason is the problem, obviously, right? And so I ended up backing out of that one because I understood the avatar so well that I was like, nope, I'm not doing that again. And so who's ever heard of the Valley of Despair? Okay, yeah. So the Valley of Despair is a really interesting thing. Hormozy talks about this all the time. But the idea is that when you start, you have uninformed optimism. You see the promised land, everything's good. All I got to do is buy this course and everything's going to be golden. And so you buy the course, you watch the thing, you make the product, start running the ads, and then all of a sudden you start realizing, man, this is a little harder than I thought it was going to be. You know, I wasn't kind of expecting it to be this challenging. And then after a little while, you start getting into informed pessimism. You know what's going on. You know that it's hard. You know that there's a problem, but you don't know that there's a solution. Eventually you get to the Valley of Despair and you say, oh my gosh, I don't think this is worth it. Oh my gosh, this doesn't work. I made a mistake. There's something that I hadn't anticipated. So-and-so scammed me. This guru is totally full of it. You know, you start coming up with all these different reasons. And at that point, when you're in the Valley of Despair, that is when you, I don't know what it is. You'd think that Facebook has some kind of a emotional tracking tool on you, that they know that when you are at the very bottom of your discouragement, that's when you have an ad show up for somebody saying, that thing you're trying right now, it doesn't work. The odds are against you. It's not your fault. You know, throw rocks at your enemies, that whole thing, right? You always get it right then. And that is when you say, holy cow, I need to pivot. I got to try this other thing. And so you get to the bottom, you go right back up to the top, and then you are like, if I just buy this course and do this thing, oh my gosh, it's going to work. Finally, the solution to my problem. But in reality, this is not the solution to your problem. It is going back up here to the start. You don't know what you don't know, and you're just seeing the promised land again and not knowing the trip that you have to go through. The interesting thing about it is if you will hit the bottom and you will just keep pressing forward, that's when you meet to the next part, informed optimism. Now you start saying, okay, I know this is hard. I know that I can do this. I know that there is a way out. If I will just do the work, I can get there. And eventually it's just sticking with it. You'll get to the promised land as long as you don't turn back and go home. My dad actually struggled with this for his entire life. He was switching businesses probably every 3 to 6 months. I don't know what it is. This process from uninformed optimism to Valley of Despair, it always lasts about 6 months maximum. And so if you find yourself starting something new a couple times a year, this is where you're at. You're in this cycle of uninformed down to the Valley of Despair. You find the solution, start back over again. That is exactly what's going on for you. And you can tell from my 29 businesses, that's where I was at. I was living this circle for 15 years. And it wasn't until I got to the bottom and I was like, you know, I'm getting distracted if I just stuck it out. Because the truth is, any of those businesses that I had started would have worked. Stop driving fear, I could have figured it out, right? I could have got a new domain. I could have made new content. I could have shifted it. I could have interviewed an expert and then sold that as a digital product, right? I mean, I could have figured it out if I had just stuck with it. Instead, I was like, oh, domain name's burned, I'm out, start the next thing. And so this is something that you really got to do, is the shiny, like it says here, the shiny idea always comes at the bottom. And so when you're in this this cycle here, you really got to set some objective marks, because some things really are a bad idea. You know, sometimes things really do need to be, you do need to quit something, but it's important to do it based on facts and not emotions. And so typically this could be, you know, I'm going to do this for 12 months. You know, if it's not working out after 12 months, I'm gonna accept the fact that maybe I got something wrong. Or, you know, I'm gonna make 200 phone calls, and if I can't close somebody on 200 calls or at least get some legitimate interest, you know, there's something going on here I don't know and I need to pivot. But you could do it before you spend the year and $30,000. So there's one of those steps in the whole thing that pretty much makes all of the other ones irrelevant. if you're familiar with the concept of the big domino, let's see, Tim Ferriss, I don't know if he created it.
4-hour work week.
Yeah, 4-hour work week. Interesting fact. Do you know how he came up with the title of the book, 4-Hour Work Week? So what he did is he came up with a list of like tons of different titles that it could be. He made Google ads, and the title of the ad was the name of the book. Whichever one got the highest click-through rate is what he named the book, and that's where the 4-Hour Work Week came from. It's really kind of an interesting story. But, okay, so pre-selling. Of all the 5 things that you can do, this is the most important one. Making something so nobody wants, pre-selling. Yeah, and the other ones that I went over, if you will pre-sell, it solves all the problems, because you're not making something nobody wants if you sell it to them before you make it, right? They obviously want it because they paid for it. You have the money to build the product, so your risk in doing the product is pretty low because you're not coming out of pocket. You have a product that's pretty proven. You have an audience. You've verified that you're working with a decision maker. When it comes time to go into the valley of despair, it's always easier when you have some cash in the bank. It's easier to make it through the hard time when you got money coming in. And so pre-selling is the one part of the entire process. If you will do that thing, almost all the other problems go away. And again, you can do it. You can get good enough at it in 20 hours. And so that is definitely something that I've started doing. Okay, so I'm going to show a video here. Kurt Walker is the guy who usually runs this class. He's in Denver today, which is why he asked me to do this. But he came with me a couple weeks ago on our Little Cookie Monsters visit. So these are my boys. The small one here, that's Luke. He is amazing and extremely stubborn. Joshy, he is the strongest kid I've ever met, and he hits really hard. But I love the kid. That's Elijah. He's actually the oldest one, if you can imagine that. And so one day the boys were like, "Can we have some money?" Of course I said no, but you can earn the money. And so we came up with the idea of doing a cookie business. I love cookies, and so I was like, "Great, let's make the cookies." And so I'm thinking about my 5 problems that I've had over the years, my 5 blunders that I made, and so I'm trying not to repeat those things with my kids. And so this business, I am going through and trying to solve these problems. So just some ideas. I want my kids to get good at sales, right? I was scared to death of sales until I was like 35 years old. And so I want them to get past the age where they won't even remember what it felt like to be afraid to go up to a person and ask them for money. And so that has a lot, there's a lot that goes into that, but it's easy when you can control the environment. And I'll show you a video here that Kurt made when he came to the splash pad a little while ago. Let's see, pull this up.
All right, what do we have here? The Little Cookie Monsters. Yes, oh, you already got to the cookies. And this is Big Cookie Monster. So tell us what we're doing. Okay, help us get to the beach. My name is Elijah from the Little Cookie Monsters. Loud here. Okay, who are you? Joshy with? The Little Cookie Monsters, right? And who do we have here? And you guys have samples. So smart. Luke, I love your little apron. And then we have Johnny here. He's all sunblocked up, ready to go.
Sampler.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about this operation we have here?
Well, they wanted some money, and I didn't want to give it to them, and so we decided to have them earn it. So this is part of their homeschool business class.
Okay.
And so they are learning sales. And this week, we're learning about target customers.
Target customers. Who are your target customers?
Dad!
Dads. Okay, why not moms? Why not grannies?
Because they don't pay us.
You got your Venmo, you guys are set up. Okay, explain to us what happened. You guys came out, you started selling to moms your first couple of Saturdays.
We would just come, and it was during the week.
Yeah.
So our offer was, hold on. We came in, the offer was $1 cookies.
Yeah.
And eventually we would sell them, it'd take about an hour and a half to sell 70 cookies, and it was exhausting.
Yeah.
So one week we decided to pay what you want.
Yeah.
And on average, we made about $4.25. So
Yeah, let's
we haven't-
deconstruct the
we
pay what
haven't
you want
changed
real quick
that.
though. So you got samples, that's important, so you get trying. Look how big these samples are, they're not even tiny. And look at these cookies, they're big, and as Michael likes to say, gorgeous
They're very good.
monster cookies. Okay, so you guys know that you have dads, and why do dads pay more?
They are usually trying to support the business. Mom will say, it's almost lunchtime.
Oh,
We
okay.
don't want sugar before naps, and
Okay.
dads just don't care.
All right, so here we are, the little Cookie Monster boys. All right, do this. They're in there. They're assuming the sale. They've got the samples out. It's pay what you feel, and they're in, locked in. Here we go. Second sale. Trying the sample. Samples are big. They're monster, and they're very tasty. Basically, like closes them right on the spot. He's like, man, they're good. See, and after the sample, it's all over. He's reaching for his wallet. He's checking out his Venmo. And of course, the sign says "Real Water Cookie Monsters" on the back inside of it. After it says "Pay what you feel," is they have Venmo. So that closes the other objection of people for bad.
Who's that over there?
Freeloaders.
The yo-yo people? Are we gonna sell to the yo-yo people? Why not? They take samples and don't pay.
They're freeloaders.
That's right.
Are you eating the samples? Totally true, the dads, they just can't say no. I don't know if it's the entrepreneurial spirit or what. But they're always in. After their Venmo. Aren't they good? Satisfied customer right here.
And here.
And here. 10 out of 10, you say?
Yeah.
Hey, here we go. The moment of the sample. Then the sale is closed. And she's getting the Venmo.
Moving from $1 per cookie to pay what you want changed everything.
We're gonna get one, and then she found out it was pay what she want, and she decided to get through it. And they're gonna be more for cookies, for sure. Slick, I'll tell you. Head Cookie Monster after 45 minutes. How we doing on Venmo?
We got 67 on Venmo.
And then we broke
Check
a
the cash deposit.
cash deposits. I think we broke 100.
We were programmed.
Oh my gosh, doing well. The beach is looking closer indeed.
They did a
Mama Walker wanted 6 cookies, so you guys chose the best ones, right? That's right. Okay.
Hand them over.
Hand them over. Hand them over.
Kurt was really nice to record that, but yeah, it's easy to try and live through your kids, and not have them not repeat your mistakes. So yeah,
Two things. One, first of all, where is that place?
it's a splash pad in St. George, Utah.
It's beautiful. Second, your tall son, he's the middle son. Mm-hmm. Looks like he collects money.
Yeah, he's scared to talk to people.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he'll whoop someone like. He's playing football or anything?
He's actually surprisingly good. I'm not good at sports. When he was 2, he could shoot a basket in the little Costco one that we got, and he could make it almost every time. He can throw a baseball straight. I mean, it's really incredible. But he is really big and really strong.
He said, right? He's strong.
He's really strong.
Yeah, he looks.
Yeah, like I love to tickle his leg like this, but he'll tense up, and his legs and his muscles are so strong, and I'm like, whoa, okay, this sounds like I'm actually fighting somebody. But yeah, so right here, $1 cookie going to pay what you want. That's an example of testing an offer, and it sounds really kind of rude to not want to sell to moms, but it's true, they don't pay as much. You know, if we go to a splash pad and there's no dads there, we'll leave. There's the yo-yo club in St. George, meets at the splash pad, and like they said, they take samples, but they never buy. So we just skip the yo-yo club. And, you know, they could still probably go and make $15 or $20 from the moms. And so, I mean, theoretically, like if the goal was to make money, it would make sense to go and do it. However, I want them to understand the idea of a target customer and to just walk away if it's not them. And so I'm trying to teach them these lessons when they're kids. All right, so the way to sort of compress, let me see what I'm doing on time here. So the way to sort of take what you want and bring it closer so you don't have to repeat these same mistakes I did. Pick one product, one avatar, one sales channel, chocolate chip only. We don't have any other kinds of cookies. Chocolate chip only selling to dads. If we show up and they're not there, we're out. We don't go during the week because dads work in the week. They're there on Saturdays, on hot days. If it's cold, they're not going to be there, so we don't go. One sales channel, which is the splash pad. We don't go anywhere but the splash pad. And so that's what we're doing. Okay, so this is something, since I just have a couple minutes, sales, since it can be kind of scared, I'm going to teach you the homeschool lesson that I am teaching my kids right now. So if you are to look at sales on a continuum, well, let me back up really quick. It's really easy to think that sales is just like this magical thing. You know, people are born with the gift of gab, they're great salespeople. That's not true at all. There's actually a structure to sales, and a lot of it comes from recognizing where someone is at in the process. Once you can identify, that's really the skill, is once you find out where they're at, then you have all of your scripts that you've memorized in advance and practiced a million times, so that when you find out where they're at, then you can go into muscle memory. So when you have a customer, there's basically three different types of people. One is there's people that say no matter what. There's people that say yes no matter what. And then there's everybody in the middle, the maybes. And so, as you'd probably imagine, there are way more maybes than lay down sales, the yes, and the people that are going to always say no. And so when you're talking to someone, this is sort of the first filter. Are they a yes, a no, or a maybe? If they're no, stop talking. There's no reason to keep talking. If you ever watch Shark Tank, you see these, the people will keep pitching to usually Mark Cuban. They're like, they're trying to convince him to do it. And Kevin O'Leary's is like, he's already out. Why are you talking to him? He has already gone out. Talk to us, right? If someone is a yes, stop talking. Take the money. Here's Venmo. Here's the cash. Stick the product out so that they feel obligated to take the cookie, right? If they're a yes, get the money. If you keep talking, you can talk them out of buying from you. Everybody else is a maybe. The thing that's amazing about maybes is that if you're good at sales, you can convince a lot of them to give you the money. If you're bad at sales, they will all say no. That's just a really interesting part about it. There's absolutely not, absolutely yes, maybe. If you're good, you'll get them. If you're bad, they'll all say no all the time. And that's sort of that principle is, if you're good, you can get them. If you're bad, they will always say no. And sort of the next part, and this is the most important part, is objections come down to blame. Somebody doesn't want to do something, they're never going to say, oh, it's just because I don't want it. They're going to come up with some other reason. And they're going to blame circumstances, other people, or themselves in a unique way. So like, for example, circumstances would be, it's too hot outside, it's too cold outside, I don't want to do it before bed, or I don't want to do it for this reason. That's the problem, that's why I don't want to buy. And this would, be something that you could train for. Another one is other people. I need to talk to my spouse before I buy. I need to talk to so-and-so. My boss is the one that makes the decision. I mean, certainly all of these things can be true. However, you've got to learn that when you're talking to people, are they yes, no, or maybe? If they're a maybe, who are they blaming? Once you say, okay, they're blaming a circumstance, they're blaming time, I don't have the time. Then you start going into, your objections. Why don't you have the time? Oh, I'm just too busy. Well, isn't now the best time to do it if you're too busy? Because you're going to be busy forever. And if you ever get to the point where, you know, you're too busy again, you're still going to need to do it. So in reality, this is the best time to do it when you are busy, right? I don't have the money. That's a really great point. Why don't you have the money? Oh, because of such and such and such. Well, isn't that kind of the reason why you need to buy this program? Because it's going to help you get the money. If you don't ever want to have this problem again, you need to be able to get the money. So now really is the time to do it. Another thing is self. This is things like, you know, I've been burned before. I was screwed by an agency. I was such and such, or this happened before and I'm really scared. And so that's what you're doing. Are they yes, no, or maybe? If they're a maybe, who are they blaming? When you find out who they're blaming, there's usually a list of reasons they're probably blaming that thing, and you can memorize scripts to address those objections. So I hope this has been helpful in some way. The 5 points are absolutely critical. Pre-selling solves almost all of them, and you can get good enough at sales in about 20 hours. So thank you so much for your time, and hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions.